So since we're on service, we'll talk about legal just briefly. I don't have too much exposure to legal. Legal was comprised of, again, some of the most educated secularly people that you're going to find. Those were where the lawyers were, and a lot of them, a lot of the people that were in legal department were not born in witnesses. So they were a weird vibe. Um, but people who came in as professional secular people and they did not grow up as witnesses, they had a different kind of like this mindset. They were like proving themselves twice, and they always were feeling a little bit guilty for being not born in, for not putting Jehovah first, for not they always had that guilt, that because because they always told you, don't think about going to school, don't do what I did. And this is before they changed the school rule that they have now. But it wasn't just people who had come into the organization later. It was people who were born in too, and those people who were born in, they didn't really talk about it. How they got to school and were able to come to Bethel. They didn't really talk too much about that. Um, and I'm not just talking about legal. I'm talking about anybody who had that ability or that best of both worlds privilege to be able to go to college and then use your degree at Bethel, before they just recently changed that rule. So what legal department again, I got closer to the legal department when I moved back down towards Bethel, um my second go round as a commuter, because my congregation had Bethel lawyers in it, because it was a congregation that was literally down the street from Patterson. So I had a lot of exposure to the lawyers, and I had a few lawyers on our elder body. Also had a doctor on our elder body, um, who kind of gave us a lowdown about how things were going there. Um, they had they had a very weird view of the organization. It was kind of like I don't know what it was. It was just like audibly, I remember one of the lawyers saying, "Look, we just aren't handling things correctly." And when I say handling things correctly, I mean like, he would some of the lawyers would have to go out on site to these different places around the country. And I remember one lawyer coming back home from an assignment out, and he was just talking to us as elders, and he goes, "We're not winning anything out there." He says, "There's not, no one's, no one's even, none of the elders are actually doing anything. None of the governing body are actually doing the action. They're just not handling it right. So we're losing legally." So I kind of thought to myself, well, then let's stop doing that. Let's handle it right. Um, and so I think the lawyers are kind of frustrated with the governing body, with the society, with the policies, all different types of it. And I'm not just talking about CSA, just like it's like, man, you guys are fumbling this, and we got to clean up your mess. Um, but I don't think it's enough for them to think twice about it being, uh, whether or not it's a cult or whatever, especially if they came from secular things. But these people had the best of both worlds. They were the richest, some of the richest Bethelites. I mean, you think about it. Look, you couldn't be at Bethel and have debt. So you not only were you a lawyer who has paid off all their debt, you probably had to have worked secularly before you came to Bethel. So you had money. That's why I said the Patterson people, they're very preppy. They're college prep people. They were affluent people in and out of Bethel, in and out of the organization, before they were JWs and while they were JWs. And so they were not the funnest people to be around. We just didn't have the same type of background. Um, but yeah, they were there. They were the lawyers. Okay. pretty stuck up people, and they took these lavish vacations and they traveled the world and did what they wanted to do. So they were interesting people. But yeah, I, all in all, I would say that I can't get into every single department. And maybe construction, I'll talk about a little bit. Like construction department, any type of construction, that was also a frustrating department. A lot of them got a lot of pushback from different entities that they had to deal with around the territories and all these new projects and building projects, and they were exhausted. They were constantly having to build, and it was like a project after a project after a project, and they just got tired of. They were tired. They were tired of having to just turn around and build something else new when they just got finished building this. And there's so much red tape in the community and with these entities, secular entities that you have to go through in order to get approvals and all that stuff. Like you just don't want to have to do that again after you just did it a second ago. But the governing body was relentless, especially lately, with the amount of construction and building and buying and renovating and that they were doing. It just didn't. A lot of us just did not. We couldn't wrap our head around why we were doing this. What really, really, really tipped us off, as a Bethel family was first of all, construction is a very tough time to be at Bethel. Imagine it's the same as if you had your house being renovated and you just want to live in your house. And maybe you just had your house renovated last year, or maybe you just moved in the house and you just want to be settled for a minute. It's the same amount of stress multiplied by a million because you're on, I don't know how many acres of land that you have access to. And this is your home. You don't want to hear construction going on. You don't want to have to walk around and that your building be ripped apart every day. You just want to go home in peace. And it's very tough because Bethel makes Bethel construction time periods really f's up your whole schedule. Like you just get so off. You have to change everything, and your routine is everything at Bethel. So when your routine is changed because they don't care about your routine, um, you really don't do well. And unfortunately, well, I guess not unfortunate, but at the time, particularly when we were moving from from Brooklyn to Warwick, we lost a lot of Bethelites. A lot of guys were getting kicked out because your routine was messed up. You couldn't go to the meeting. A lot of times you would miss a lot of meetings. Sometimes you'd be stuck in one area. You had to be transported from one facility to the next facility. You're trying to support this whole big move from Brooklyn to Warwick. And, they didn't have time to check on your spirituality, your spiritual routine. So you were just on your own and had to just watch recordings of morning worship or watch recordings of worship study, or you're half asleep, or you can't go out, or you don't have any social life. You're working over extra overtime. So a lot of guys were lost during that time period. And what I mean is they were either disfellowshipped or sent home because they couldn't keep up. And I that was initially my main reason for leaving was I was like, I'm slipping out of the faith. I need to leave on my own. I don't feel like dealing with it here. That was kind of what my mindset was. When they told us, okay, legitimately, we're shutting down Brooklyn, we're opening up Warwick, and we're gonna be the first ones in and the last ones out. I was like, I'm going home. I'm going home. I can't do this. This is gonna be too much. Um, so yeah, that's the department. So we'll talk a little bit more about the people who don't really have any authority, the day-to-day Bethelites.